All right, we're live. If you guys ever are, if you're listening right now for future, we do go live on YouTube. So if you ever want to
Yes.
watch as well as listen and see our beautiful faces during the episode, feel free.
Well, and the fun part is you actually get to listen to or watch us before it gets posted because we post, we record and then it's, a couple weeks later till that episode actually airs in our podcast space,
Yeah, so it's
right?
like VIP
Am I
access,
saying that
and if
right?
we yeah, it's VIP access, and if we
That's
make
right.
any major mistakes that we would edit out otherwise, you get it live. So
Yes,
unfiltered.
unfiltered. Yes, that is true. Oh my gosh. But yeah,
Wonderful.
I mean, season 2, it's kind of nice. I was thinking about this morning, like how we record early, so different things pop up for us, and and how much easier it is to have such a great foundation for our recording to when we have little snippets or like my internet was being funky several weeks back. Claire's fire alarm is going off and we're having to pivot the timing of when we start. It's just like, had that happened in season 1, I don't know we would have had a season 2, like I mean, we would have, but it just would have added another layer. But because we have such a good foundation now and system, um, those hiccups are like laugh it off
Nothing.
and it's not
Yeah.
as stressful.
Catch us in
So,
season 5.
yeah. So Claire, we have the holiday coming up. It's we're rolling into the fall, Labor Day. Do you have any plans? Anything exciting?
Yes, I'm so excited. So last year I got my cat in August, like beginning of August, and then for Labor Day last year, I took him with me back home to Washington, where my parents live, and we went camping at the ocean. And so this is year 2. So our new tradition, I got him an awesome. Everyone might have seen this on my Instagram. An awesome little backpack that is see
It's
through,
so
one of
cute.
bubbles. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
going.
was like, yeah, it reminds me of something I was like an astronaut would have, but he's like jet setting.
I love it.
I
I'm so
love that.
excited. I'm so excited to see the reactions at the airport when I'm walking through with a cat on my back. Oh, crazy cat
But
lady. My
it is,
friends were joking. I'm like cat lady Claire.
I mean, it does have a ring to it. That's great. I love that. And this time of year in the Pacific Northwest is so beautiful. The
Oh,
weather's,
my weekend's
oh, it's
like
just good.
75.
Oh,
75 and
heaven.
lows of 55. I'm like, wow, that's right in my range. I love it. I'm so excited. How about you,
Uh,
Ange?
well, I'm sticking around for the holiday weekend. My sister's actually coming into town with a couple girlfriends. They're staying um, not around my area, but close enough. So I'll get together with them in different pockets. But it is retail life. So the job of sales and retail calls. So I'll be
Mm.
working. Um, and then we're kicking off the Gilbert Half Marathon training program. So that is every Saturday morning for the next 13 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So we're partnering with Nike and Soul Sports as the company with the Gilbert Half. So it's kind of a big deal. It's kind of a
Wow.
big deal. So I'm excited to be a part of that. We'll have different workshops for runners along the way to help them target injury prevention, hydration, electrolytes, all those amazing things that we do talk about on here, nutrition, fueling, food wise, and then, of course, the mental space as you start racking on those miles for the half, which is a 13.1, and just really mentally prepare and remember your why am I out here doing this, why did
Mm.
I commit to running this, because as the miles kick in, it is taxing, and you have days where it's harder to get out and put in the work, but it's part of the accomplishment when you get across the finish line and you hold that medal. So It'll be
Wow.
exciting. The
Great preface for
yeah,
getting out of your comfort zone, by the way.
yeah, challenge yourself. And I mean, truly the reward after you complete anything is so worth every moment that you were battling just quitting or backing off and doing like less endurance or less of something within it, but you're still doing it. So I don't know. It'll be fun. It's something new to add to my world. And but the getting back to the fun part is the week later, I'm heading to Big Bear, California. So just for a long weekend. And it'll be nice because it's always beautiful that time of year. So it's kind of warmer during the
Mhm.
day. And then it's the hoodies and sweatpants at night. So I'm
Very
looking forward.
nice.
Yep.
Exciting. I love
Yeah.
it. Well, that is a great lead in, especially the running and talking about how more taxing it gets along the way, but it's so worth
Mhm.
it in the end. And that's a really good lead into what I want to talk about today, which is
Yes.
getting out of your comfort zone. Why should you do it? When should you do it? How to acknowledge when you're in your comfort zone and all the things of why it is such a good and scary but great thing.
Yeah. Scary.
So,
It's so true.
so scary. I want to like just talk about why I want to talk about this so bad because I grew up being the most afraid kid that
Mm,
existed. I would like latch
okay.
on to my mom. I couldn't get left in like the daycare at church because I was too afraid to just be there without my mom. And I was so afraid to even like go. My mom brought up this story when I told her that I did. Oh, when I went skydiving, actually, when I told her I went skydiving, she was like, "What, Claire? You wouldn't even go down the slide as a kid." Like, yeah, I don't know what happened to me, but it's changed my life. I think once I started getting out of my comfort zone, I was listening to a podcast. This was around the time when I was graduating college. But as I started going into college, I started getting more out of my comfort zone. I think just moving to Arizona in general and not knowing anyone was the
Mhm.
first big leap that I ever did. And it forced me to get out of my comfort zone because I had no one to lean on. I had no car to escape. I had to just
Mhm.
face what was there. And it really forced me to do it. And then once I realized, like, hey, this isn't that bad and it was worth it. And I love it here. And if I was never, if I was too afraid to do that and too afraid to get out of my comfort zone, I would not be who I am today. And
Mhm.
I just think it's so important for people to think about and just acknowledge it and acknowledge areas of your life where maybe you are living in the comfort zone a little bit too much and how much it could change your life to get out of that. So,
Mm, mhm.
yeah, I
I
mean, yeah, go
oh, I
ahead.
was just gonna say, I think that I had a very similar childhood where I was like, I remember my mom, like, we went to a new church and she was like behind me, like kind of gently pushing me into the youth group. It's like, or kids' church or whatever. And because I liked safety and comfort and I didn't want to stand out or be the new person. And so through changing schools from different states, I mean, it just kept growing me. I didn't have a choice. Like you, Claire, when you came to Arizona, you moved and um, you had to start surviving and
Mhm.
growing out of that comfort zone. And it's easy to just do what feels the best in like
Mhm.
safe little bubble that we want to live in.
Isn't that the truth? It is the easiest thing. So that's why doing anything outside of your comfort zone, it is hard, but there's no other way to get to where you want to be. You're just gonna stay where you are if you stay in that comfort zone. So
Mhm.
I think the first step in this is to acknowledge the different areas where you are in your comfort zone. And what that means to be in your comfort zone is it's safe, it's the smallest amount of stress,
Mhm.
but you're also not growing in any way. You're staying stagnant, you're staying exactly where you are. So I think just acknowledging different areas where, okay, yeah, I've been waking up at this time every day because it's a habit of mine and I feel comfortable doing it. I feel safe doing it. It's something that I do. Or, oh, yeah, I continue to eat this food. It's my comfort food. For example, like this is, I always eat maybe my Starbucks, my vanilla mocha or sorry,
Mhm.
chocolate mocha, whatever it is. And that might be comfortable and you might say, oh well, I can't do it without this stuff because coffee tastes bad or different things like
Yeah.
that. But it's like it's those little things that add up when you're doing them consistently. So just
Mhm.
acknowledging those areas where it's like, okay, is this actually a necessity for me or am I doing this because it's in my comfort zone and maybe I should take a look at that and acknowledge
Mhm.
where that is and where I should be stepping out.
Right.
So that's a good initial step is just acknowledging these different things. Different benefits of getting out of your comfort zone. So number one is growth. I mean, that's the only way to do it,
Mhm.
like to step into that void of wow, this is uncomfortable and actually pushing through it and
Mhm.
embracing that uncomfortable feeling instead of letting it steer you back to where you were or steering you
Mhm.
back to doing that same thing. So just really embracing the uncomfortable.
Yes.
Um, and then studies have found that being the people who are more secure in stepping out of their comfort zone are more likely to be excited and look forward to new experiences.
Mhm.
And I think this is huge because going into new experiences can be really, really scary because you've never done it before and just naturally it's not easy and it can be really scary. I can think of the amount of things when I first moved here where I was like, oh, I don't want to go to this alone or I don't want to go do this because it's just it's uncomfortable and there's so many things that you could think about like where am I going to park or like who's going to be
Mhm.
there what's going to happen there. But if you embrace that uncomfortable and reframe your mind to well this could I you don't know who you could meet. I could meet someone who's going to up level my life, who could be a mentor to me or who's going
Mhm.
to be my next best friend, you know, and just reframing
Taking
those.
Yeah, it's taking and putting a positive outcome, not looking at the what ifs of the worst case scenario or the fears, right? To that drives us to hold back from those changes, but to really find the good and and the positive possibilities that can come from those things. And I often think too, like when I haven't had a choice in life, like where other people around me um made choices that uprooted my life, I didn't have a choice but to move
Mhm.
forward. But because I went through that challenging time of my life in that season, it I was able to see how it is possible to push through really challenging stuff when you don't have a choice. Like
Mm.
you have to keep moving forward, but when you have choices that you're pushing yourself into those uncomfortable zones, it's easy to say, "Oh, I tried it. I'm not going to do that again. I don't have to do it." But reframing the mind, to I get to experience blank.
Absolutely. And then once you've had those experiences, it gets easier. And
Mhm.
so that's another thing is it builds up momentum. So once you're getting out of your comfort zone more, it gets easier to keep doing it and you actually start craving it more. I know when I first started like really embracing this, okay, I'm going to purposefully do things that make me uncomfortable. Once I
Mhm.
started doing that, it's like I started craving it more and I started getting more uncomfortable being comfortable. I'm like, okay, I'm a
Mhm.
little too comfortable right now. Like I need
Mhm.
to throw
Mhm.
something new in there and like it just like builds up that momentum. And then another benefit is it builds your confidence. And
Mhm.
uh like you said, that ability to just take on more things after you've gone through things that are challenging and you were forced to do or whatnot. But when you like purposefully take those leaps, you build confidence with yourself because you're saying, okay, this is something that, you know, makes me very uncomfortable. For like one thing that comes to mind for me was skydiving because I'm so deathly afraid of heights. It's been one of my fears forever. And then I met someone who is an avid skydiver, and he was just like, yeah, I'm going to be in town for skydiving. You should come. And I'm just like, that's been one of my fears forever. But it was like right after I started really just starting to embrace uncomfortable things. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Like, this is the time. Like, if not now, then when? And I mean, the risk is not that crazy compared to riding in a car every day. So I was like, all right, like, here we go. Let's do it. And I think that was the first big thing that I ever did. And after that, it's like, wow, everything else seems so small that you're stepping out of your comfort zone with. So
well, and I was gonna tap in. I know like we've been talking like big life things or uncomfortable things, but if we kind of funnel it back down to a lot of what we chat about, which is like food, right? Making those uncomfortable changes. You did a little bit on that Starbucks, but then also in our workout, like, you know, if we are on a treadmill or we're, you know, pushing ourselves in a workout space and it's feeling a little uncomfortable, right? Like the heart rate's up a little bit more than you want it to be. But saying, I'm going to finish this out and I'm going to push through it because that is where growth comes.
Oh, I love that you brought that up because on Monday I was doing a workout class. I was doing my first it was a weighted yoga class similar to Core Power. If you guys have ever done Core Power. And oh my goodness. So there was this pose.
I have done those several. I've done it's like body pump. And it is. Yep. Go ahead.
I think
Claire.
we were talking. Yeah, we were talking about this over the weekend about Core Power. That's not even what really inspired me. I don't even know. I just saw it pop up the other morning, and I was in this pose. It was Warrior B, and then we were doing bicep curls, and you had to hold that low position in the warrior stance, and this resonated with.
Tell people what that like in another. Like a lunge, right?
Yeah, so it's like you're in a low lunge, but in like a different type of stance, and so it's more like sideways, and then your arms are straight out. So you're doing like a lateral raise where your arms are parallel to the ground, and you have dumbbells in your hands, and then you drop your front arm. And then you start doing bicep curls while your other arm is still up holding the other dumbbell. And you're still holding this deep lunge.
And these, keep in mind, these weights that are being used are what, like 2-3 pounds?
Yes.
Up to 5?
Yeah.
Just to give our listeners a perspective, it's not like you're doing 20 pounds if you're not familiar with when they pair weights in a hot yoga class.
Yeah, I was just doing 5 pounds. Yeah, so it wasn't anything too crazy. Like I do lateral raises, you know, with 5s, but this, yeah, it's more intense when you're holding it for a long time. And the instructor said, if you want to straighten that leg, is it a psychological want or is it a physical need? And I loved that. Because I'm like, it's so uncomfortable. Your instant reaction is, this is so uncomfortable. I'm going to straighten my knee. I'm going to put my arm down. This, you know, I'm going to make this a little more comfortable. And then that frame of mind, like, is it my mind that wants this? Or is my body going to give out if I don't? And your body's most likely never going to give in. It's all mental. Like you
beforehand,
have to get over that. Yes.
Oh yeah, it's the mind that comes first before the physical.
100%.
That's
crazy. So I love that you brought up the workouts because that reminded me of that moment, and I'm going to use that in my future workouts because it's so true. Getting over that mind, like, oh well, I usually do, for example, like push-ups. Well, I usually do like 10, and then I'm done. Well, what if you do 11? What if you just increase that a little bit? And I think that's a great way to start off. And I also the power of one more. I really love that book by Ed Mylett. I don't know if anyone has read that, but it just talks about just getting out of your comfort zone just a little bit more, or pushing yourself just a little bit more, even if it's just one extra rep, or if it's just staying in that position for 10 extra seconds, like just different things like that is going to make you grow and step out of that comfort zone and build that mental resiliency, which is another one of the major benefits that you can get from this, is that just building up that mental state of getting through things and focusing on that, and you just feel so much better and rewarded after.
Yeah. And I even use that because I'm short. I'm 5'3", and a lot of times I can't reach something, but I'm so close, and I have this, like, I'm right there at the top of this, feeling what I can, but I will close my eyes and imagine as if I grabbed that, which comes from mental, because physically I'm not tall enough. I'm struggling in my height status to grab something that's, within range, but not right there. But I will imagine, like, I can do this. I can totally reach this and get that. And that comes from digging in within the mental space. I mean, that's an example. Or if I'm doing something challenging like you were in that workout, and that somebody isn't telling you to think with the mind in that moment, or the body, is to say, this is so short term. This is not going to last. Like, this is seconds in my life. And really seeing, like, imagine your life on a timeline, and you're just like every day, 365 days times how many years? Like, where is that moment and seconds of uncomfortableness? And that kind of thought process, for me, pushes me mentally to just get through, because this is not forever. This is not forever.
Absolutely. Wow, I love that. I love that. I'm gonna use that for sure. It's so true. Like, just telling yourself those little things throughout it, like, you could do anything for 10 seconds, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
like those little, like, things that you can say in your head, like, okay, like, this is a 30-second plank. Like, you're strong. You're strong enough. Like, our bodies can handle so much more than we give them credit for. So I love that. Like, in the grand scheme of things.
Oh, yeah.
Like the benefit of doing it for that extra time is just, the benefits way outweigh the feeling of the uncomfortability. So
I think too, like, this whole topic can be plugged into so many different compartments of our daily life, and getting uncomfortable in general allows us to really thrive, because, life is not comfortable. There are a lot of things that we encounter that even, that we've become accustomed to and, like, press through, and it's uncomfortable, or, but then you are challenged with bigger things, and that create you to really say, this is uncomfortable. But it's a part of growth. It's a part of getting to that next level in life. And, if we were always just in comfort, what would our life really look like if everything was just super easy and comfortable? And you wouldn't have the challenges, and you wouldn't have those stories to say, I did it. I got through this, breakup, or I got through this, you know, uh, lifestyle change with my eating and my workout, or I got through this new job, the 90-day period where you're just trying to learn all the new things, and you got uncomfortable, but you made it, and you went to the other side of that space. And there's things in life that you just don't have a choice on, but somehow we find our way through it, especially when they're things out of our control, like work, you know, and who we're working with, who's our neighbor and next to us, or who are we having to like have those challenging, uncomfortable encounters, you know? Maybe I'm the one who's uncomfortable and creating more of a challenge, you know, to the other party. But both sides it's uncomfortable. It's not great. And I think embracing those moments
Mhm.
and saying, how do I grow through this? I have to go through it to grow through it, you know? I heard that saying a long time ago, but I don't know, and I'm always
Absolutely.
up for a challenge. I always like I don't love it, but I do get I flip the mental switch and I'm like, "All right, bring it. We're going to
Yeah,
power through this," you know? And I'm going
because
to
you know
own
there's gonna
that.
be a reward on the other
Mhm.
end of it. There always
Yeah,
is.
a personal one.
Absolutely. And that's more benefits. So like failing forward, I is one thing that I love is like it might not be comfortable to try out a new business endeavor or put yourself in this new position where
Mhm.
you are going to be uncomfortable, but the more you fail, the further it brings you to where you want to go. And so
Mhm.
you have to mess things up a little bit to figure things out. A lot of times you have to do a lot of things that don't work before you find out what does. And
Mhm.
I think that's so important. Like this relates to business, this relates to just every aspect of life is just figuring out what doesn't work and putting yourself in those things because you never know what's going to land. You never know
Mhm.
out of 100 tries there might be one thing that's just going to expedite your life more than you could ever imagine. So I think that's just
Mhm.
so important.
And I think, I mean, the fail forward is a great way to look at it too, because you're moving in in a forward motion. And is it really failure or is it that thing you just
Right.
said, trial and error? You know, I think often we put a lot of weight if something doesn't work out is that it failed, but
Hmm.
it's that we got back up, you know? We
Yeah.
got back
I,
up and we tried it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And reframing the word failure too, I used to look at it as such a negative. Like,
Mhm.
oh, I don't like my boss before our Q2 meeting was like, all right, come to the meeting with your greatest wins and your greatest failures. And I instantly was like, why would I want to bring up my greatest failures? Like that I like what have I done that's such a big fail? And then he reframed it for me and just said like your failures are a good thing. You know,
Mhm.
those are the things that are taking us closer to where we want to go. Like it's that doesn't mean like oh, you're done for. You know, these are the
Mhm.
things that are good and that we learned from. And so that's always what's going to happen like these things like the risk that comes with this, it's going to the risk to reward, you know, that's it's way bigger than just staying in the
Mhm.
same place because you'll never get there if you're just staying in the same place.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you could call them growth opportunities. You know, you can whatever label that if it failure has a lot of weight to it, it is just reframing that and just saying, "These are my winning opportunities. These are my life lessons or learned, nuggets of life," you know, like, whatever that is, because if you tried something and it doesn't work out, or you tried it and it worked out, you know, it's still growth within that option.
absolutely. Exactly. So
So
there's so many benefits at the end of the day and I do want to talk about just what can you do today and
Mhm,
every day to
mhm.
uh bring this to fruition and get out of your comfort zone. Was there something you were going to say, Ange?
Oh, no, I was gonna ask, like, what are a couple things that you have done? Like, I know you talked about skydiving. I know you love cold plunging. I just did that last night and made it to 2.5 minutes, so I was pumped about that. But, like, anything other any other fun things that you do that have, like, really challenged yourself and you've seen that win on the other side? Or, like, how was it well, cold plunging, like, that's a great example, like, when you first did it, how many minutes or seconds were you able to stay? And then how did you increase to keep that momentum going?
Well, I'm a little crazy and I like love challenges. So if someone tells me, oh yeah, the max you can do is 10 minutes, I'm gonna do 10 minutes. So I did 33 degrees with ice uh in an ice bath, and I did 8.5 minutes. And
Okay.
I will never, ever, ever, ever do that again. It was the most pain I've ever experienced in my entire life. I will tell you, I was frozen. I was, yeah, in so much pain. So I'll never do that one again. But I was so
Mhm.
glad that I did it because I've never met anyone who's done 8.5 minutes in a 33-degree plunge. Like
Mhm.
I have yet to. So that was big because it made me realize, like, okay, like I can do the normal time, which is like 2 minutes, like
Mhm.
it's just like that, like put the momentum out there of like, okay, I can do the hard things. I would say another big area where I've used this is, well, skydiving for sure, but
Mhm.
also just making new connections and putting
Mhm.
myself out there to, like, I used to be so shy. Like in high school, I didn't really, like, my softball coach told me like, "Whoa, Claire, you do have a personality. It just took the whole season for it to come out." And I'm like, "Oh yeah." Like she was like, you were the shyest person ever. And now you're like you're coming out, you're getting more comfortable. And I always think back to that because that's
Yeah.
the complete opposite. Like all my friends will say I'm one of the most outgoing people I know because I go out of my way to talk to people and make these new connections. Sometimes it's a complete miss, but
Mhm.
the amount of times that it's a miss is so minuscule to the amount of times where I put myself out there to go ask someone a question. I put myself out there to go up to someone and give them a compliment or a random act of kindness and get to know people. And like, I never would have done that 5 years ago or six, maybe
Mhm.
7 years ago. But doing that has allowed me to get so many connections and going like solo traveling, for example. Uh,
Mhm.
that's a big one. Or just going to events by myself where I'm forced to meet people and talk with people. And
Mhm.
I've met just some of the most amazing people by doing that, of just putting myself out of my comfort zone, who have up leveled me so much and like shown
Yeah.
me what's possible in life, even. And just going to something that something invited me to, and like being kind of a yes woman where it's like, I'm not going to know anyone. Why would I go
Right.
to this? Like one person invited me, but it's a huge event and there's going to be so many people there. And
Mhm.
I don't know like how it's gonna go, but it's just like taking that leap, and then it ends up being the best thing I ever did.
Mhm.
So those are just some of the examples where I've just been so grateful that I did take that leap.
I love it. I love it, Claire.
How
Thanks
about
for
you?
sharing those.
Is there anything
Um,
that comes to mind?
I think I too was super introverted and finding opportunities in different. So when I worked for Lululemon, we had team meetings and we had to, like 30 of us would show up. And part of me was saying, I have to get uncomfortable and talk like in front of all these people. And on one half, it's like, yeah, I work with them. We can chit chat on the floor, talk about different things going on with the store. And then you put me in with all of those people in a circle staring at me, and it is really uncomfortable. Like, I'm like, and yet these are people that I have no problem doing what you and I do right here, right? Just chatting it up. But why is that headspace of mine freaked for
Mm,
that? So I also took that upon myself to say, I'm not going to let that own me. Like, I don't want that fear, whatever I have going on, to get in the way for me becoming greater at something.
mm,
And then I started making efforts to always pipe in on those meetings with, if there was a question asked about this material or this whatever that's coming on in the pipeline. And then that translated into, oh my gosh, I'm talking in front of 20 runners. And now it's talking in front of 45 runners or 50 runners. And at some point, I hope to speak in front of hundreds. Why not?
I love
And
it.
allowing that fear to dissipate. and be able to be more confident within myself and show up. I've also did a travel trip by myself where even though I went to the same spot in San Diego and what was familiar once I got there, it was the physical act of driving to San Diego, to doing something by myself on a road trip to grow who I am, and that I don't need to have someone else to feel safe and comfortable. Like I am safe and comfortable going on a 5-hour road trip away into a space that's what I'm familiar with, you know? And so those were
Absolutely.
uncomfortable moments that I could have easily just been like, nope, I'm going to sit in this meeting and just smile. And unless I get called on,
Mm-hmm.
or nah, I'll just wait and I don't need to go to San Diego. Like, you know, I'll just maybe go on a hike by myself for a couple hours. Like that's not challenging and that's not uncomfortable. That's safe. So
Absolutely.
I
I
just
love
want to
that.
keep doing that. I mean, I just let you know, Claire, we'll have to like powwow and see what things. I mean, this episode is wrapping up, but really to reflect on what other things that I have not yet done because I'm not ready to get uncomfortable, but I want to be uncomfortable.
I love it. I think all of our listeners should do it. And I highly recommend, like, what are the practical steps moving forward? I highly, highly recommend
Mhm.
setting a reminder on your phone. You can set up a daily reminder so that it comes in like around the time that you wake up every morning. Do something uncomfortable today. I started tracking this.
Mm.
At first, I started tracking uh, what uncomfortable thing did I do today? So it forced me to come up with something each day of what I was going to do, whether it's having a conversation that I was holding off on, or
Mm.
saying an extra minute in the cold plunge, or doing some extra reps at the gym, or doing that HIIT workout that I've been putting off. There's just so many different things of like, and being able to come up with that thing of, okay, what did I do? And then I changed it because I just got so used to doing it to how many
Mhm.
times did I do
Yeah.
something uncomfortable, and just putting it down like, all right, today I had that conversation with someone that I had been putting off. I called this person that I've been wanting to talk to for a while. I did something that had barriers
Mhm.
that were put up, and I went out of my comfort zone to do it. And then I track how many things it was that day, and it grows all the time. Like it's
Mm.
just it, and it inspires me, and it keeps me wanting to get out of my comfort zone. So I highly recommend everyone do
Oh, I
that.
love it.
Even just journaling. What are some things that you can think of that are right now that have been uncomfortable? You have it. It takes up bandwidth. Like, there's probably a few things for everyone that comes to mind of a few things
Mhm.
that they felt too uncomfortable to do, and they're just not doing it. Write them down and come up with a plan to do it, because it's
Mhm.
just going to free up more space for you, and it's going to help you learn, fail forward, and do all of these amazing benefits that we talked about today.
Ooh, I love it, Claire. I'm motivated. I mean, it's just good. It's good growth. It's there's some things that as you were speaking that have popped into my mind and I'm going to write them down and hold them close to myself as I am growing in that boldness to step into the uncomfortable space and but I know because as I reflect back and see different things that I made it through, right? Got to the other side, it's fine. It all works out, you know? It doesn't it doesn't end up having a negative. It feels like it, but it really is not when you get on the other
You
side. So
never
leaning
regret it.
in. Yeah. Yeah, leaning into like I have had experiences in the past and it has worked out, and reminding yourself of that as you go through those challenges within yourself to be bold and step out into that zone of uncomfortable.
I love that. Just thinking what that's my clarification actually is like I'm clarifying that what's the worst that's going to happen. Think about that. Like
Yeah.
what is the absolute worst? Are you going to die? Is there death on the table? If not, then why aren't you doing it? Like let's go. Let's
Right.
make it happen.
Mhm. Yeah.
And what's your action? I
I
think
think
you kind of
it
just covered it a little
yeah.
bit, but
No, just writing those things down, like putting them from here mentally in your, what you float around and talk to yourself, internal self-talk of those things you want to challenge yourself of, but putting on paper is really key. And I think for me, that brings it to life. And that creates a slight level of like, I'm accountable now. I can't just hide
yeah,
it in my
yeah,
head. But yeah,
there you
just
go.
putting those to work and making those changes and getting uncomfortable. So, cheers to
I
getting
love it.
uncomfortable.
Cheers to getting uncomfortable. I hope everyone has some takeaways from this. Follow us on Instagram, and we will see you next week.
Well, that's right. We'll see ya.